nightmare.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Subculture, where we discuss everything strange, obscure and downright messed up in the world of movies. My name's Gary.
And I'm Simon. Before we get into the episode proper, I just want to remind everyone that's listening to give us a wee like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified when new episodes go live. We really appreciate it, and it really makes a difference to the channel and helps us grow it, and hopefully means we can do more different and extra bits to the content in the future. Gary.
Yes.
I know you're 7 out of 10 tonight and stuff like that, but why are we here tonight? What are we talking about?
Tonight we're going to talk about a little movie called Cannibal Ferox, released in 1981. Follows a group of friends as they travel to the jungles of South America. One writing a dissertation seeking to prove that cannibalism is a myth, but they soon discover there's a price to pay for their own savagery.
Ooh. That's some write-up. I must say, I was a bit taken aback when the way this film started, and I kind of wondered what was happening, and then I kind of, blinked, and suddenly we were no longer in the city anymore, and it took me a while to I'm like, what's the connection here? Like, why have we been showing these kind of criminal underlords or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I pretty much really enjoyed this film.
Nice.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was, I guess I was expecting like a Cannibal Holocaust type ripoff, but whilst I think there's elements there that are obviously taken from films like that, yeah, I thought this was quite an interesting one, and I quite enjoyed it.
So this is directed by Alberto Lindsay. This is the one that it was the last good movie of the cannibal cycle, the Italian cannibal genre from 81. Alberto Lindsay is a guy who's credited with starting it with Man from Deep River in 1972, I think that came out. And then you had this kind of tit for tat between him and Deodato, going back and forth, both trying to sort of one up each other. Then this was sort of the one some people say kind of went too far. Supposedly it's the most violent film ever made, according to the poster, banned in 31 countries.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of the UK video nasties, of course, and definitely got some quite gory scenes that have explicitly set out to shock. I think that's the thing you come away with. That the intent was to be as sort of shocking as possible. But this one, yeah, I really enjoy this as well. I think it's definitely one of the best of the cannibal genre, and it's a really fun movie. I think, despite the sort of non-PC elements that go along with the cannibal genre, it's got some really great dialogue, really great kind of campy performances, over the top kind of exploitation style performances. I think Giovanni Lombardo Radice is brilliant in this as Mike.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm quite a big fan of the cannibal genre. I was sort of going over that and trying to think kind of why I like it. But I think for me, the cannibal genre premise of like a group of people getting lost in a jungle, that's just a great kind of premise for a horror movie. I think it is quite terrifying in itself, and I think that the sense of that premise has a sort of realism built into it that maybe like ghost stories don't have, because this could actually happen, and you're trapped in the jungle and there's all sorts of horrible things regardless of the cannibals. It's enough terrifying things to scare you as it is. And I kind of like the sort of, when you hear the stories about how the cannibal films were made, it feels like sort of film production on the edge, about to kind of come off the tracks at any point. When you hear stories about that the sort of what went on, and like the sort of rules about health and safety that we might expect now weren't exactly being followed. People weren't getting paid. There was no food to eat, stuff like that. And obviously the heat and all the stress that would go along with that. So yeah, the cannibal genre really works for me.
Yeah, it's kind of got that kind of all those things you're mentioning. You know, we talked about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the way that, you know, the dinner scene goes with the stories from set on how that was shot. It's like that, but expanded into like a full, you know, a full feature, whereby they're putting these kind of, as you say, like the literal same position as the characters in the film. You know, these people are in the Amazon, like rainforest, kind of in the jungle, and you just, you know, they're obviously exposed to exactly what the characters are meant to be exposed to, and it kind of has this kind of other layer to it that you know, you don't get in a lot of, you know, mainstream films, where you're like, yeah, you know that it's probably not very safe to be making this film, and the kind of unknown, especially in this, you know, the 80s, 70s, with what was actually out there in the Amazon. Like it wasn't that documented, and, you know, and people really were, and that's also what they're playing into, is that fear of the unknown. But there was scenes with like the tribes people, and you're just, I mean, I'm assuming those were real people that lived there, like, and they're kind of, or like some of them at least, I don't know about all of them, but like, you just wonder how have they communicated what they're doing to these people, and like, are they meant to be there? You know, you know, are they in danger? Like, who knows? You know what I mean? It feels really kind of raw in that way. But yeah, like you just say, like it does. I've not seen. I wouldn't say I've seen too many of the cannibal genre. Probably of the you know, these types of film. I don't know if you count Chainsaw Massacre as a cannibal film. I suppose you do, but it's not quite the same as this or Cannibal Holocaust. But I've only really seen those two. And it's interesting the fact that both of these films, this and Cannibal Holocaust, have that kind of, like, it's not exactly what I thought or expected going in. You know, it's not just a cannibal film. There's that kind of, like, you know, George Romero-esque, like, commentary on society, and our part that we're playing here in this, and, you know, with Cannibal Holocaust, with the film crew and stuff like that, and the stuff that they were kind of trying to engineer, you know, to happen. And here it's kind of the opposite way, whereby they're trying to disprove it, but it turns out that it's kind of, you know, we, as in we, the outsiders, are the actual real threat. And so I get, you know, I kind of suppose I thought this might be more kind of straight cannibal film, but it's interesting that this, as well, as I say, goes with that kind of like other layer of, it's not really them that we need to be scared of.
Yeah, this is quite a common theme within the Italian cycle, about who are the real savages. So in this you've got like the good white people, the bad white people, the sort of good indigenous natives, the sort of more violent indigenous natives. And in this one it's the character of Mike, Giovanni Lombardo Radicci's character, who's the guy who is a bit on the edge. He likes his cocaine, and you know, commits some violence against his tribespeople, which is meant to sort of rekindle the cannibalistic root inside them, and they seek their revenge only after being sort of prompted by the violence of Mike. It's good that that's kind of in there. Doesn't do it gives it a second layer, but it doesn't really dive too deep into it, rather than throwing your hands up in the air with kind of moral ambivalence. But I think it's correct. But you know, savagery is kind of a subjective position, and obviously Lindsay does this sort of switch between the city and the jungle, the sort of urban jungle of New York, and the real jungle on the Amazon River. So he's obviously had a sort of roots in crime, Italian crime films as well. He builds this sort of detective story into it, where the character of Mike's gone missing after some kind of drug deal, and they're looking for him. The police are looking for him, and no one knows where he's went, but he's disappeared to the South America. So I think that works quite well. I think, it's more fun probably than Cannibal Holocaust, even though Cannibal Holocaust is number one, is the best, just because it has that level of formal innovation. And I think Cannibal Holocaust is just the most savage, and it still is quite kind of disturbing. Whereas this feels a I laughed a lot of the way through this. It's got some great lines and stuff. So it's a bit more upbeat and fun. It's got a great soundtrack. The score's really good.
Yes, that was really good. Yeah, that really
Aye.
stuck out to me. It kind of reminded me of Zombie Flesh Eaters a little bit. You know, that way it has this like one kind of like hook, and you just know when it kicks in. You know, it's just a lot of fun. I thought the special effects were really like good in this film as well. I thought like when you first see that, you know, the body of is it the Portuguese it's supposed to be strung up. I mean, you know, it looks really. I mean, I don't know if it's all special effects or how much of it's like, you know, in those days they were quite fond of using actual meat products to, you know, be like carcasses and bodies and stuff like that in parts. But it worked really well, and I thought, you know, when you see later on the castration and the eye gouge and things like that, I thought those were all worked really well. There was a special effects guy on this, I think. He worked on a bunch
Gino
of
De
stuff.
Rossi, I think it is.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I googled him after the film because I know that guy's name. I think he worked on Rocky and things like that, or one of the Rockies. He's had a career as well.
But yeah, quite a lot of iconic special effects scenes. You've got the character of Pat at the end gets impaled through her breasts.
Oh, geez, yeah, right. Oofed. That was brutal. Like I wasn't sure what was happening because I wasn't quite sure what we were doing here, whether we were getting just them all, being punished for the sins of Mike or what, just didn't know where we were going. But then when that actually happened, I was like, holy crap. Yeah, that was something special. and being hung up. Oof. But yeah, and then like the whole, as I say, the castration and the like I've never seen a guy a dick so quick. I just wolfed it down, didn't they? It was pretty funny, but in the fact that they say they cauterized the wound, and the fact that like Mike's still up and about and ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean?
He doesn't give a fuck. He's still hooked up in that cocaine.
Oh, Mike definitely gets his comeuppance in total. But he's some boy. He's still got energy to run about, even after he gets his hand cut off.
I know. Oh yeah, that's right. Aye.
The brain eating scene, obviously, as well at the end.
Oh yeah, that was a bit special. I remember I was like, "What's happening?" I actually thought he'd went under the table himself and tried to hide or something like that from them. And then I saw the chin brace come in, and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "That's awesome!" Like there was no. I love that the zero hesitation that the tribes people have. It's just like, oomph. Usually in like Hollywood films, I think you're used to people doing this build up, and you don't quite know whether something's going to stop it or not. Nothing at all, just wallop. I off and then just start munching down. That was really good as well. So I kind of like that feeling. Like you're talking about the skipping between the city stuff and the stuff in the jungle, and it was interesting that when they went back to the city for the third time, I think, when I don't know the blonde girl's name, that they meet, the two criminals meet in the park. Is it Meg?
Yeah, it is sort of Mike's landlord / lover.
So when you meet her and I just when you were describing it, I was like, it did kind of feel like it felt almost as unsafe or as dangerous as the jungle did at that time. It was quite a nice mirroring of like, when those, because she was out in the middle of nowhere and those guys were there, and you really got the impression, because they just shoot that guy at the beginning like, without giving any like time at all. Just like the tribe people, just like kind of, yep, you're off, you're gone, no build up, nothing, you're just dead. So I really wasn't sure if they were going to kill that character or not at that point. I don't know, like when they went into the jungle and stuff like that, I wasn't sure. It felt a bit futile. I don't know. You're not really like that. I was like, what they like. I don't know. It felt as if you were meant to think they were maybe going to save them or not. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it felt like they kept kind of flying over and getting into the water and stuff like that near the end, and I was like, I don't know if it needed that necessarily. Like I didn't, because I guess I just didn't feel like they were ever going to find them.
Yeah, I mean they find them pretty fast, don't they? At the end,
well, it just cuts to the end, doesn't it? cuts to the end, and then Gloria is like, oh, no, there was no cannibals there. I didn't see nothing. They just fell into the water and were eating big crocodiles. I really wondered what was going to happen there, because I wasn't sure if we were doing if it was going to be like a fake out ending or something like that, because just how catatonic she looked almost. And then when she took the award from the guy at the end, and it just kind of froze on her, and I was waiting for the Carrie moment, or like the jump scare or something like that, or she's not really got out of the jungle, she's still there, that type of thing. And then the music at the end as well is the same music that's at the beginning. I think a lot of the city stuff, and it's almost like a kind of
it's that kind of upbeat, kind of funky tune.
Yeah. I mean, never really find out what happens to Rudy, do we?
Rudy,
he gets attacked by the piranha.
Yeah.
And then he gets blow darted, which I assume has killed him, but we don't really see him after. We just see him getting tied.
I think that's him. And then going.
Was it what the hell was wrong with Pat? Right, like they dropped down that piece of meat into the anthill that they are stuffed down, and like she goes to get it, touches it, and Gloria has to say, no, it could be Rudy. I'm sorry, I don't care whose it is. It's a bloody piece of meat that looks like, and you've just seen them eating something. Like, it's as if she's like, fuck you, I was going to eat that as well. What I mean? You put me right after that.
I was right down for the heart. You've just put me off it.
Had it in my mouth and everything. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what she thought it was.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like they'd been without food for long enough for her to be like, just give me something to munch, So I don't know what I know she was freaking out anyway, but she had zero chill. But yeah, she was interesting as well. Like the whole bit where Mike takes her down to torment like one of the little girls and stuff like that. I was like, fuck's sake, what? Oof. She deserved that hooking at the end, I think.
Right.
You know what I think? I mean,
yeah, she definitely.
She did stop, and she was trying to let the wee boy go. And I thought it would make more sense for that wee boy. The wee boy saves Gloria at the end, or tries to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it would kind of made more sense for him to try and save Pat, because she was the one that kind of sent him, like, told him to run, kind of thing, But.
Yeah, he obviously knew Gloria was sort of the purest of the bunch.
Sure.
The kind of most well intentioned. Nah, I mean Pat was on the edge of the moral seesaw, but I think she tipped it too far to bad.
She sat in Mike's knee,
right,
and other things, and tilted the seesaw in the direction of the immoral. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I think overall, I think what we get for this movie, Lindsay's direction, I'd say, is quite plain, quite functional. There's nothing particularly flashy. Cinematography does its job. There's no kind of amazing technical shots or anything. No. But yeah, I mean, I think Lindsay talks about how he wasn't really that proud of his cannibal movies. He was more, really? Okay. He would sort of point to some of his other crime films and stuff like that, but he says he just did them for the money, basically. But it's one of the things, I think these are his films that get talked about the most. The same way with some of the big name actors that did some of these Italian genre films, thinking they would never be seen again, then become like their most famous works.
Classics. Yeah. Do you know like much of the background of whether the native people were actors, or were they from there, or do you know?
No, they weren't actors at all.
Right.
From what Giovanni Alberto Radici said on one of the audio commentaries was that, the kind of reason they went there, they could just, he said they paid them with bread and butter. I don't know if he's being completely literal there, but right, okay. And he was talking about how basically they only spoke their own kind of dialect, that no one really could translate properly. There was translators, but it wasn't Spanish like Portuguese. It was sort of a kind of unique thing, so they weren't able to kind of communicate properly between the crew and the indigenous actors. So that was a bit of a problem, which led to a lot of scenes being done over and over again. And I think the cannibals, the characters of the cannibals aren't that scary compared to some of the other movies. But yeah, I think that was a kind of language thing. Plus, I mean, Lombardo Radici tells a funny story about when they actually eat his brain at the end, but they couldn't really get them to act properly. But fair enough, because he was saying how the brain was a combination of banana and stage blood, which tasted horrible. So they would just they would taste it and then just pull a face on camera, where they're meant to be loving this brain.
It's pretty impressive then that it's pretty impressive that they got what they did out of them then, not be able to communicate what they need them to do. Like, I'm thinking of the scenes like the castration and stuff like that. They're pretty, like, they look well done for the time. And the performers definitely seem like they are intent on castrating this man who's causing this pain and kind of distress, which it kind of brings me to it really does feel like I'm trying to remember that I felt this way about Cannibal Holocaust, but it really does have that kind of layer of I Spit in Your Grave, it's like a vengeance film almost, like, whereby we are kind of just coming in at the middle, and then we get the the kind of narration of the kind of backstory of what happened with Mike and Joe, isn't it? And then so it's almost like we're seeing the similar kind of scenes that we see in I Spit in Your Grave, where the vengeance is enacted by the tribes people. Just to come back to what you're saying about they don't feel that scary, the cannibals, and that's, I think for me, that's maybe what I'm getting, is like they're almost like, it's almost like a just vengeance almost, that they're taking, and so therefore they don't really, it's almost like they don't need to be scary, because it's just kind of horrifying the violence that these two sets of people have been putting upon each other. But yeah, that's quite interesting. And so, because what I was coming to with asking about the actors and the indigenous people was about the kind of animal cruelty in this film. So it's something that really, really stuck out to me in Cannibal Holocaust. And I don't know about other cannibal films, but it seems like it's not safe to be a turtle in this genre. Because I was really thought what was the little animal? Was it an anteater, or was it a aardvark or something like that they had tied up for the snake?
I think it might be a muskrat, but I'm not 100%.
Okay, right. Because when that was happening, and I thought, oh, here we go, this is going to be the animal cruelty for this film, right? And then they managed to shoot around it in quite a cool way that I thought was like, oh, and I thought, oh, maybe we're not going that way. Maybe it's been done, so they're not going to do it. But then we get to the turtles. There's quite a few turtles that get their heads off and limbs off and stuff like that, which obviously is not. It's not fun to watch. Personally, I don't find it fun to watch. But something about it didn't make me feel quite as bad as the stuff in Cannibal Holocaust, because it was the tribes people that were doing it, and I got the impression from what they were doing that might be an actual source of food for them. That I might be wrong about that, but I certainly could buy that more. And it didn't make me feel like they were just like, whereas in Cannibal Holocaust, it felt like even inside of the film, that the people were just doing it for the fuck of it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it felt like it was like more of a kind of like a display, a put on display. You know what I mean? Like a kind of, and yeah, unnecessary. Yeah, is what it felt like. Whereas in this, it felt like it probably was part of the production, but it could have easily been just something they were doing as part of their normal food cycle.
Yeah, I mean, the animal cruelty is obviously a bit of a stain on the film that sort of plagues all of these cannibal movies. I think that, Lindsay sort of puts the blame onto the producers that wanted it. Right. There is quite a fair bit of different animal scenes in this one, and I don't know, I think at least in Cannibal Holocaust, it sort of adds to some of the realism, whereas this, it doesn't really feel, it doesn't add anything to the movie at all, really, other than like shock, just to add a kind of level of shock value.
Yeah. Suppose yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just I guess it's just maybe it's just them like manipulating me a little bit, and that me seeing that it's these people that, as I say, like trip me, you know, whether it's intentional or not, it's maybe I'm just fooling myself, but it certainly felt like I could have bought that was just something these people were doing. But if you're saying that it was put in there by the producers, then yeah, I mean, it really didn't. There wasn't even very much. It wasn't even as if the Western, the interlopers characters even commented on it. It wasn't even as if there was any kind of interaction or reaction to it. So
in Cannibal Holocaust, it feels like that sort of the scenes are, there's a character motivation for doing it. Not that I'm justifying it at all, but these seem just like, here's a scene of a shocking animal death, and then move on. The turtle one, which is the actual tribespeople cutting up the turtle, which Lindsay says he kind of justifies it to himself, saying, well, they do that anyway. I'm not sure if that's true, but he was like, well, they eat these turtles every day. We just tend to film it.
That's the way I kind of, that's the kind of way it felt to me. But for some reason that it didn't trigger me quite as much. If that makes sense. And until like, oh my god, I can't, this is horrible, because it did feel like maybe that was just something they ate. So if that's true, I mean, maybe he's just lying to himself as well, kind of. But yeah, and that's why I think if that's true, then it's an unnecessary addition to the film. But it's like, they weren't going out their way to do anything for it, if that makes sense. But if they staged it and asked them to do it, then that is probably worse than its inclusion in Cannibal Holocaust, which, as you say, has at least some sort of something's happening in the story at the time to justify that. But yeah, it's just as a stain on these, and I don't think they need it.
Yeah,
these films, I think they're fun enough and gory enough, and but hindsight's 2020, isn't
it? Yeah, definitely the Italian cannibal films. They have some issues with, obviously, animal cruelty, kind of suspect kind of sexual politics, and the portrayal of the indigenous peoples in all of these films. But I don't know, I they've still got something about them that I quite like, despite that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's definitely that kind of, it does feel like a fun film, if that's, and kind of this does anyway. It does have, and I think, as you see, Cannibal Holocaust has I think a bigger part to play than just that. But there is something about them. I know what you mean. Yeah, it's kind of that thing that Anthropophagus had. It's kind just a different setting, but it still has that kind of, I don't know if it's the acting, the dubbing, or what, or the staging. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something there that's just in. Yeah,
I think they have the good elements that we like from exploitation film. The campy performances, the dubbing, but they also have a bit of kind of real tangible horror that other exploitation films don't have. So they are still quite scary at the same time, to some degree. Well, I think that's why it kind of works for me. They have all the fun that we want from exploitation, but they are a wee bit on the edge as well. That appeals to me.
I'd agree with that. I need to. I mean, I don't know. We may talk about some others in the future, but are there any you could recommend to me or other peeps out there that are?
So yeah, the best ones: Man from Deep River, aka Deep River Savages. Lindsay's other one, Eaten Alive. Obviously, Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox. There's Diodato's Last Cannibal World, which is okay.
What was the one that you said was called? That was actually called Green. Isn't it one called Green Inferno? But not the Eli Roth one. The other the.
Oh yeah, the Green Inferno.
Yes.
AKA Cannibal Holocaust 2. Yeah, that's quite interesting in a way. But it's not a great movie, but that sort of parodies a lot of the things that the genre is known for. A wee bit like the Animal Cruelty. It kind of make jokes about it, and it doesn't really have any animal cruelty in it or any real cannibalism.
Okay, right, okay.
Right. That's a more kind of light-hearted take on it. But aye. Yeah, so the genre kind of trundled along into the late 80s, but this was like the last kind of sort of big one where the big name directors did, really. So
wonder if we'll ever see a revival. I doubt it. Well, on a large scale.
Yeah, you don't. The Cannibal film died quite a death. Like you had the Italian zombie cycle going at the same time, and zombies have continued to be very popular all the way through the decades, haven't they?
I think it's the whole probably the kind of portrayal of indigenous
the racial
peoples.
politics of it.
Yeah, totally. Because if you're dead and you're eating people, if you're a zombie and you're eating people, it's not saying anything about anything, is it really? It's kind of safe almost, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's an interesting one. It's weird that it's one. We've seen the slasher come back. We've seen the ghost story come back in big ways. And different kind of horror tropes and stuff like that. But it's one that I think you're right. It's kind of been just lumped into the zombie, kind of genre for people eating people kind of thing. It does it, lumped into the slasher genre for the cannibalism in general, with Chainsaw Massacre and films like that. But for this type of cannibal film, a pure cannibal film, I think we've probably seen the last of it.
So you've been listening to Cinema Subculture. If you'd like more of this content, make sure you've subscribed on YouTube, like the video, and hit the notification bell.
Thanks for listening. I've been Simon.
I've been Gary.
Keep it extreme. And don't eat your pals.
It was a nightmare.